What's up, everyone? I'm Unimaginative. It's another beautiful day outside, but we're going to spend it inside learning how to play Zul in Heroes of the Storm. Zul represents the Necromancer class from Diablo, and so his abilities and trait are all taken from Diablo. I believe he is based off of the Necromancer from Diablo 2 specifically. I've never played Diablo 2, so I can't really confirm that. Zul is classified as a bruiser, an off-tank, good laner. He's got good crowd control and a decent amount of self-sustain depending on how you build him. We're going to talk about my preferred build with him today, which is organized around his trait, Skeletal Warrior. With that trait, Skeletal Warrior, when an enemy minion dies near Zul, as you can see here, they come back as a Skeletal Warrior. The Skeletal Warrior has a pretty low health pool. It doesn't do a lot of damage, and that health pool decays quickly, but it gets more bodies in the mix, and these warriors are going to tank shots for your other minions. Let me bring in a enemy hero here so I can kind of demonstrate his other abilities, because they are all kind of notable with their effects on enemy heroes. So while we wait for Arthas to get here, I'm going to talk about the ability he starts bound to 1, which is Bone Armor, which when activated gives him a shield equal to 25% of his health. Alright, so there's Arthas, so I can show you his abilities. We're going to start with his Q ability, Spectral Scythe. As you can see, let me turn off cooldowns here real quick. As you can see, it spawns a scythe a short distance away from Zul, which flies towards him. What's important about the scythe is that when it hits an enemy hero, it spawns a Skeletal Warrior on them, making it an integral part of your kit with the Skeleton Warriors build I'm going to teach you about here. On W, he has Cursed Strikes. For a couple seconds, all of Zul's basic attacks become AoE, damaging any enemies caught in their cleave, as well as slowing the attack speed of anybody hit, hero and minion alike. We killed Arthas there, so I can't show you the E quite yet, but I will momentarily. But it's called Bone Prison. With Bone Prison, what will happen is after a couple seconds, after casting it on an enemy hero, they will be rooted in place. This will also cause any active Skeletal Warriors to fixate on them. So now that we have talked about his abilities, I'm going to go ahead and set my level to 20 so I have access to all my talents. And we'll talk about my preferred build and some alternative talent choices. With this build, at level 1, I almost always take Backlash, which kind of weaponizes Skeletal Armor. All 3 of your level 1 talents relate to Skeletal Armor. Generally, I avoid Shackler. Backlash and Shade are both fine. I prefer Backlash for the extra damage, but if you're against an enemy comp with some basic attack heavy heroes like Illidan or Greymane, Shade is a very good choice. At level 4 is when you really start building into your Skeletal Warriors. The trait I like here is Jailers, which makes it so that when the Bone Prison hits an enemy hero, it spawns Skeletal Warriors on them. As well as spawning a Skeletal Warrior on them, it gives you a quest to spawn 80 Skeletal Warriors. Once you've achieved that, the Skeletal Warriors will move and attack more quickly when focusing on an enemy, which can kind of help them hunt down and harass anybody you hit with your Bone Prison, or any backline heroes you hit with your Scythe. I'm going to grab this health real quick, and we're going to talk about level 7, where I like Tragul's Essence. Now, generally, Tragul's Essence is avoided. It's not as good as the other talents on the tier, unless you're doing this Skeletal Warriors build. What Tragul's Essence does is it causes attacks by your Skeletal Warriors to return, I think, 0.5% of your health and 0.4% of your mana, which isn't a lot. But with this build, you're going to be spawning so many Skeletal Warriors that can really add up over time. However, if you don't go the Skeletal Warriors build, I would avoid Tragul's Essence. At level 10, you have your choice of heroic abilities, Poison Nova and Skeletal Mages. Skeletal Mages is a little better for crowd control. I say a little. Infinitely better for crowd control. But Poison Nova does a ton of damage, and I usually go with Poison Nova here. Because of the Skeletal Warriors build, you're going to be kind of losing some of your raw damage output, in exchange for self-sustain and some extra bodies in the mix. So Poison Nova helps you balance for that. However, if you think you need some crowd control, Skeletal Mages is a fine choice. Let me demonstrate Poison Nova here. So after a short delay, it will send out little projectiles in every direction, which hit enemies and deal a ton of damage over time. I think it's well over 1,000. At level 20, it's a really powerful ability. It can allow you to pressure enemy heroes if you can just manage to walk into a fight and cast it. Do note that it does have a delay before it casts. It also damages structures, which can make it a useful tool for sieging, though I generally would avoid it unless there is an enemy hero nearby. At level 13, Amplify Damage is a great choice if you have a team that can capitalize on the Bone Prison. Rapid Harvest is fine, but I prefer Echoes of Death with this build. What Echoes of Death does is it will spawn 2 more scythes a few seconds after your original Spectral Scythe when you cast the ability. Now, these scythes don't do as much damage. I think it's 40% the damage of the actual scythe. But this is not an ability that's about dealing damage with this build. It's about getting more Skeleton Warriors up. 3 scythes is... let me rephrase that. 2 more scythes is twice... You know, I'm not going to do math right now. But it's a lot more chances to spawn Skeletal Warriors, because your scythes are going to come flying from the back line, hitting multiple heroes. At level 16, Bone Spear is alright if you need a little burst, but I prefer to choose between Decrepify and Weaken. If you're against a team with a lot of frontline heroes, Decrepify is what I prefer, but Weaken I prefer against in general, because it allows you to really lower the damage of casters. If you can hit Gleaming with a Spectral Scythe or Kael'thas or whoever, you're going to be able to really lower their damage output, which can be huge. I don't know if you noticed that, but there were a ton of Skeletal Warriors just up right now. That's the result of this build. Normally, Zul is not going to have that many. At level 20, Kaelin's Edict synergizes really nicely with the Skeletal Warriors. It reduces the cooldown of your heroic ability every time a Skeletal Warrior deals damage, but it's kind of overshadowed by his other 2 talent choices if you've taken Poison Nova. Mortal Wound is an incredible ability, which lowers healing healing received by 75% whenever Spectral Scythe hits an enemy hero. It can pretty much negate healing. And if you manage to time it with like an Alexstrasza when she does her AoE heal, you can really diminish her healing output. However, for self-sustain, I like Endariel's Visage. Let me show you what it does by taking some damage here from the towers. Endariel's Visage, you're going to heal for 50% of the damage you deal with Poison Nova, which is a lot of damage if you place it well. And it can make you basically unkillable for the duration of the poison. Another part of Endariel's Visage is that Poison Nova lasts 50% longer. I'm not clear on whether this means the amount of damage is spread out over a longer period of time, or if it's also doing 50% more damage. I believe it's the latter, but I really cannot say for sure. Basically with Zul, you can build into any talent that you want. Effectively, you can build a size build, Bone Prison build, Cursed Strikes, but I really like the Skeletal Warriors build for 3 main reasons. Reason 1 is that you're able to get a lot more self-sustain than you do with other builds, thanks to the sheer number of Skeletal Warriors you're going to have up. This is obviously based on Trickle's essence, which makes Skeletal Warriors into a self-sustaining ability. Also important is that it gets a ton of bodies in the mix. If you're consistently landing your Spectral Scythes and doing Bone Prisons, there's going to be a lot of Skeletal Warriors hanging around. This isn't a huge increase to damage, but what it does is it adds bodies to a fight. These Skeletal Warriors are going to block things like Leeming's Orb or Kael'thas's Vortex. Skill shots most of the time can be blocked by the Skeletal Warriors. There's the word I'm looking for. making them a great ability for just soaking up damage for your team without taking it yourself. Additionally, thanks to Poison Nova, this build is able to do all this without really costing you that much damage, and you're still able to lane really effectively and be a force in team fights. So now that we've talked a bit about Zol and my Skeletal Warriors build, I'm going to go ahead and hop into a battle. Hello, it's me from the future, here to watch this game, narrate this game, tell you what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, what I'm doing right, and most importantly, what I'm doing wrong. So I'm looking at their comp, and right away, Genji can do a little with basic attacks, Hanzo can, Brightwing won't do anything, Abathur won't do anything. Varian, his basic attacks are going to hurt, but in the end I decided to take Backlash, expecting that this Varian was going to take the tank build, because they need a tank here. They don't have one? Well, we have Muradin. So we're heading out to the team fight. Normally I would be solo laning here, but Orphea kind of staked her claim on it early, and I just kind of let her have it. No problem there for me. I'll just get involved down here and help us push. So we've got a little skirmish going on now. Our team composition, by the way, Zol, Orphea, Muradin, Stukov, and Medivh, pretty strong. Theirs definitely lacking, and I think that played a factor in this being a really quick game, because it is a bit of an oddball comp. You saw me there. I was using my W, Cursed Strikes, to just clear out that wave. You'll notice during these fights, Spectral Scythe and Bone Prison basically never on cooldown, and that Abathur had a rough day. You see he got killed really quickly up there. But back to the point I was making, my Q and E, Bone Prison, Cursed Strikes, not going off cooldown. There's such an integral part of the kit with the CC from Bone Prison being able to lock down enemies, and Scythe being so important for keeping your Skeletal Warriors off. That doesn't matter as much now before we start speccing into our Skeletal Warriors build, but it will matter once we do, and Tragul's Essence becomes a key part of our self-sustain. I just run back there to get the healing fountain, up my mana and health, and then surprise, surprise, here I am. We got the Hanzo, and I correctly predicted where the Genji was going to go. Kind of proud of that, and we got 2 kills there. All the while, our minions are fighting their minions, and Skeletal Warriors are popping up. I still don't have Tragul's Essence, so that still isn't giving me a ton of health and mana back, but it's still a couple extra bodies, and I know I've made that point a lot. I just cannot emphasize enough how important extra bodies are to this build. It's the whole reason that this build is reasonable. You're giving up some of your statistical output in exchange for more tanking ability and more self-sustain. It's a worthwhile exchange. We've definitely managed to push pretty quickly into their tower. We took down a turret, took down the wall, and got away smoothly. I think I'm going to Hearth here in a second. Maybe not. I'm going to cut out places in this where I do Hearth, just for the sake of not boring you with me running back and forth. My allies who were down here with me, Muradin, Stukov, and Medivh, are grabbing that little vision camp just above bottom lane. It is important to note, by the way, this is a 2-lane map. There are 4 camps on it, 2 very powerful siege camps. They have a unique name. I don't remember what it is. That can do a ton of damage in lanes. 2 turret camps, which give you an item you can pick up, and there's actually 6. I lied. There's 2 vision camps. And, oh, that pissed me off right there. I was so frustrated during the game. I was going to try and gank this Varian and stepped on the Abathur mine, and we all abandoned the payload to chase him, which is strange because Genji is on the other team. Varian's popping in and out. I'm going to check here momentarily to see what build he went for. At level 4, Varian gets his talent, and sure enough, he went the tank build. So I am vindicated in my taking of Backlash. He dove Orphea here. With Bone Prison, we managed to peel for her, rooting him in place so she could pull back, though she probably would have escaped anyways with her little waltz. However, I think we also get Genji here. Yeah. Bone Prison, big part of that. It is such a strong lockdown example of crowd control that delayed root gives him a little chance to run away, but it lasts a pretty decent amount of time. And sorry for the video going choppy here. I'm not sure what was going on with my Wi-Fi for a little stretch, or if My computer was just feeling a little overtaxed with OBS and Here's the Storm running. I might have had Discord in the background and a couple other things. But there is some choppiness here, so apologies for that. Anyways, back to the game. The payload has done some damage top, and my allies have pushed it. I've gone bot to soak a little more experience, something that Zul excels at. Clear lanes and see how much I can do. And I'm taking down this wall here just to get it out of the way because I saw the Abathur Locusts. Dropped the root on him so he couldn't escape through his scythe to get some warriors on him, and that slug continues to have a bad day. Now I'm a little hesitant to fully commit to pushing this, and you're going to see me kind of hang around the edges here in a little bit, I believe, because I can't see any enemies on the radar. I'm worried that I'm going to get ganked. I completely missed that Varian and Genji were dead, so I thought they might still be clearing top or grabbing that elite camp up there in the upper right. The way this map is it's horizontal symmetry, diagonal symmetry, some sort of symmetry. But the elite camps are opposite of each other, so on the right side it's at the top, on the left side it's at the bottom, and the turrets, left side top, right side bottom. In the end I wound up committing to that tower, and we went and grabbed that little camp right there. Which is a nice little addition. I went to try and see if I could harass them at this elite camp. I wasn't able to initiate because, once again, we had some choppiness. But it wouldn't have mattered. I would have died if I tried to go in anyways. And I'd like to think I wouldn't have. But it's definitely possible I would have with how dominating we are in this game. Level 10, heroic abilities, Poison Nova. I waxed poetic about it earlier. I will continue to do so now. I did not do a ton of damage in this game. Well, I shouldn't say that. I didn't do a ton of hero damage. I was kind of at the periphery of a lot of fights. I skipped out on some and left early, like when they were pushing out, or pushing at the top there. I went to split bottom. So I didn't... Oh goodness, excuse me. I didn't do a ton of hero damage, but I did do decent siege damage and experience contribution, which you'll see at the end of the game. This wasn't the best example of the Skeletal Warriors build, but I didn't really have the energy to record another game. I was feeling a bit beat. If there is a big weakness to the Skeletal Warriors build, other than sacrificing some damage, it's probably the single worst build for Zul when it comes to solo camping. He can't spawn his Skeletal Warriors on the camp, so he's got to do it all himself. He doesn't have a ton of damage outside of his basic attacks, and his scythe, which has a bit of a long cooldown with this build. So it's a little harsh trying to get camps with him. And you'll see my teammates are fighting a little down there. I'm not a part of this. I'm grabbing a camp and grabbing a healing fountain. I do want to discuss a little bit on how I captured the camp. On maps with these turret camps, you want to focus the humanoid first, because if you don't, he will continuously hero the turret. Generally, if you're a character that can solo camp, it's not that big of a deal, but it is taking a little more damage, and in this game, every second matters. I'm not sure if Varian gave up at this point, or if he was really trying to do something, but either way, he went in there and found himself absolutely melted. So I ran top while my teammates handled bottom. I could have, and Abathur died again. I missed that when I was playing this game. I wanted to see how much I could get done top. My teammates took at the bottom keep with a little assist from the payload. And we've got a ton of minions top, and I know earlier I said you don't really want to use Poison Nova for pushing structures. Well, I did here just because I saw a good opportunity. It seemed reasonable. It helped me take down the towers and stuff quickly and capitalize on this big wave. And like that, we've got the keep taken down. My team came up to join me, and we're just going to nuke core here. So I don't think there's much more to talk about with Zul. I think we pretty much covered everything. So I'll go ahead and end this guide here. I know it's a little long, but I hope people can get some ideas on how to play Zul out of it. He's a really strong hero, and and I really had a blast making this. I plan to make more guides in the future. Let me know in the comments who you'd like to see, and please like and subscribe. Unimaginative, out.